Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Oh yeah, if y'all need some beats, get at me. Um, all my information is at the bottom of the video. Holla at me. But anyways, just saw the great interview by Rap Radar, I think. And I saw somebody had put the problem with Drake as a way to analyze the interview, but I liked his response, and I'm just gonna give my analogy. We probably got the same points, but I'm just gonna do the video because I really care about Drake. I'm 33 years old, so I don't know how old the dude is that put a response out. He looks like, the young brother did look like he's like 20, late 20s or something. So we might have different like angles that we might have different angle. I might be deeper than what he probably was going on, but you know, I'm grandpa, I guess. So let's talk about it, man. It was a great interview. I think Drake was very honest. And the interview was, in my opinion, Drake's first interview since the Angie Martinez interview he did years ago. I really don't look at the Apple Music videos from Drake interviews because, you know, they kind of pay you. So I really don't count those as a real interview because, you know, like, they're kind of gonna give you like a different angle with it, you know what I'm saying, because Apple does kind of care about you. So they're really gonna ask you like questions that aren't really gonna hit home with you, like to make you give a bad answer to. So I don't really count the Apple interview as a real interview. I do like that he is doing interviews with Apple because, you know, they are paying him, so people do need to kind of, you know, see what Drake is really up to. But I think Rap Radar interview was like Drake's first interview and like towards the very end of his career. So that's like a significant interview, and I think the interview is going to do numbers out the park because it's like at the end of your decade run interview. So important, great interview. So let's get to it. One thing you gotta understand is Drake has dominated the 10 years that he has been on since he came on the scene in 2009. So Drake's been on the market being successful for the last 10 years consecutively. So yeah, one thing you have to give it to Drake dominated the last 10 years, and I'll kind of go deeper to why he kind of dominated the last 10 years. Now my point of view is coming from, now I'm gonna tell you a little bit about me. I'm not in the industry or anything. I would call myself like a music analyzer. Like, I've analyzed the hip-hop, urban, R&B market for the last, since 1994. I've listened like to the radio consecutively. I've watched music change and go through periods. I watched music, you know, I used to go to the grocery store and read the Source and Vibe magazines on a daily basis, every weekly, so, or every monthly. So I really would consider myself like a urban market critic slash analyst, not analyzer, but analyst. So my opinion is coming from somebody like myself that really has analyzed the game or the music industry from a consumer standpoint since like 1994. All right. We were in a period around 2008, 2009 where we were kind of snapping our fingers, and this is no disrespect to like the South. I love the South. I'm from the South, not from the deep South, but I grew up on South music as well, but I think we were in a period where music was changing around 2008, 2009. I think, music as an industry as a whole was trying to find out how they were going to make money when people were out here kind of bootlegging music. At the time they had like Pirate Bay kind of still coming out. You were able to get exclusive albums linked. I mean, the bootlegging around 2008, 2009 was crazy. So the music industry was trying to figure out how are we going to survive through this. And so I guess the answer was around this time, well, we're just going to give you club records. And I think that's where we kind of got into our snap your fingers moment, because around this time a lot of ATL rappers were putting out club records, okay, which was a good thing. I won't get too deep in it. I might make another video about the snap your fingers era that we were in, but we really learned a lot from the era. So I think at the time ATL was really big. They were on a run. I think they had D4L at the time, and I think Laffy Taffy had just came out, and I think it was one of those times where we were kind of shocked that a song like Laffy Taffy was out, but at the time we didn't really get it. But 10 years later, I get Laffy Taffy. When I first heard Laffy Taffy, I was like, wow, like I've never heard a record like this before. At first I kind of was like, it was like a fun record, but I just couldn't believe it made it to the radio. And now I'm not from the deep south, so I'm not in that ATL moment. And this is no disrespect to D4L. I think they were a magnificent group, because they showed you that the club records is a way to get to the female audience. T-Pain did this a little bit, and Lil Wayne around this 2008, 2009 period. So Laffy Taffy, although at first it caught me off guard, I understand the importance of Laffy Taffy around this time. So around this time we were snapping our fingers. It was like a real big year for T-Pain. And I think he was kind of the snap your fingers wave at the moment. I think we were around this time Soulja Boy had just signed those big deals for ringtones, and so yeah, this was a big time for hip hop as far as financially. So around this time everybody was just trying to figure out another way to get a check, because at the time albums were getting linked and people were bootlegging like a mug. So I can kind of attest to the importance around this time of our snap your fingers dancing moment that we were in. Fast forward, Drake comes in around 2009. So we're snapping our fingers. We're in our T-Pain D4L moment. I think OJ Juice Man was kind of out around this time. I think Yo Gotti was kind of doing this thing around this time. So Club South records were big around this time. I think Lil Boosie kind of was out around this time, 2007 I think. So South was dominating clubs, like giving you club record hit after hit after hit. So we were I think the music industry was trying to figure out ways that they can get around this bootlegging that was going on. Alright, so we're gonna I guess they were thinking, we were just gonna give you club records. Alright, so Drake comes on the scene around 2009. This is around the time where we're doing a lot of dancing, we're in our club vibe, and then Drake comes. Now when I first heard Drake, DJs was really heavy on him. Now around this time Drake and Nicki did drop around the same time as far as commercially, but when I first heard Drake was 2009, and I heard a freestyle they played Drake on Funk Flex freestyle. Now at the time, I wasn't a computer dude. I will only get my new music from the radio. I think around this time I was kind of living with my parents, and we didn't have the internet. But around this time, like, I was in a different place in my life. I was trying to figure things out. I was going through a lot, so I wasn't really a computer dude like this. Now, mind you, I was real heavy on the internet back in like 2007, but around 2008, 2009, I think the internet got cut off or something. So around this time, I could only hear Drake, his emergence through the radio. So, mix shows, hip hop stations, they would play, like, I think they would play a lot of his mixtape stuff. So the first time I heard Drake was on a Funk Flex freestyle. Now, the DJ's blasting off, doing the horns, dropping, the sound effects, like, this freestyle was real hot. Now, at first, I'm a harsh critic. At first, I'm like, I don't, what's the fuss about? He ain't really, like, saying, no punchlines, though. That, I said punchlines, so I'm kind of giving you a mind frame of where, like, a 33-year-old's mind frame is at when you hear a rapper. So first thing I'm looking for is, like, punchlines. I'm ready for hard hits. So I really didn't hear much of that from Drake at first on that freestyle. So I'm like, what's the fuss about? Why they keep blowing this dude up? Why they keep playing his records like that? So fast forward to around like 2010, I think he puts out the Trey Songz record. So I'm like, okay, it's cool, I guess. But I'm really not really seeing it, I guess. So it wasn't, believe it or not, guys, it wasn't until Find Your Love came out, that record he did. Yo, that record changed my whole perception about this Drake dude. Like, when I heard Find Your Love, I did like the record he did, like, with Ninth Wonder. When he first came out, I did like that record, and I kind of was like, oh, okay, I kind of see this Drake guy. I kind of see what angle he's gonna come at. Like, he's gonna be like that cool college dude that he fly, but he not gangster. He get a lot of girls, but he comes from a good background. Like, I'm 33, so back when I was in high school, thugs were kind of frowned upon. Like, I went to a school where it was like an arts high school, so you had some of everybody. You had hood dudes in there, pretty girls. You had the dudes in there that was making good grades, but they were still fly. So I come from an era where in high school, it was fly to go to college. It was fly to dress on your pretty boy Sean John type of thing. It was fly to just be not gangster. Like, all the females, all the dudes that had the pretty girls, they weren't thugs. Like, these were like guys on a football team making good grades. They were in like little good grade clubs. Like, it was fly to just be that cool guy that had an education, and you was a pretty boy, you got the pretty girl. Like, we're in a different era now, but I was like, okay, that's gonna be Drake's image. Drake's gonna be this cool guy that's like in high school that got all the girls because he was a pretty boy, and he was from the suburbs, but he had a little hood game about him. Like, you can tell, like, he might have cousins in the hood, so he ain't like slow on game, but he's like a pretty boy, good dude, good boy. He ain't no dude from the hood talking gutter. You know what I'm saying? So when I first heard the track he did with Ninth Wonder, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And then I heard him do the Find Your Love record, And I was like, oh man, I've never heard a record like that. Like, that record is amazing. And now I make beats, so you can kind of understand, like, I analyze everything to a T, because I make beats, so I have to visualize what a song is gonna sound like before I write music to it or I make the beat to it. So when I heard the Find Your Love record, I was like, okay, I get it. I get this Drake sound, like I get this Drake wave right now. So let's just fast forward this. So ever since Find Your Love, in my opinion, Drake's just had a run, a successful run. I think he's the most consistent artist I've ever seen. Not so much that he's following trends, but he knows how to like follow a trend but still give you a new sound. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he'll throw out a popular record that the kids might like, but then he'll come with something that young adults like me will like, because me and Drake are like the same age. So that's one thing I do like about Drake. Drake knows how to balance, and Drake is very strategic. All right, don't get it messed up. Drake is successful for 10 years because he is very, very strategic. I don't know, I think his engineer's producer plays a big role than a lot of people think in his career, because he's the producer. So he's like the mastermind behind Drake. His sound, the way the songs are mixed, like, you don't understand, like, the producer is your key to success as an artist. This is why artists always fail. They don't get it. This is why Janet Jackson, where she wouldn't be where she is if it wasn't for like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Like, the list goes on and on. Like, or like Eric Sermon and LL Cool J. Like, the list goes on and on. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of these major artists always had key producers. Even with Trey Songz, I think Trey Songz has like the same producer he's worked with since like he first came on the scene. Like, guys, when you work with a special producer and y'all really connect and make great music, like, that's your like lifeline. Like, y'all have to stick together, and I don't think a lot of the new artists get that. They don't understand the importance of having that one producer and you just really make a sound. I'll give you another example, like Safari, all his beats are fantastic. I'm talking about the music he kind of put out right after he broke up with Nicki, and you can tell it was kind of like the same producer, and it sounds like whoever does Safari's beats kind of does Nicki's beats. Now, Nicki does work with different producers, but whoever Safari producer was that was doing his beats when he first came out, like, you could tell like they had a connection, because it sounded crazy. His music sounded great. So guys, when you're working and you click with a producer and you're a singer or a rapper, y'all gonna make magic and hits together. Meek Mill is an example. Meek Mill and Meek Mill and Jungle Beats, like, they had a sound that kind of made Meek Mill's, gave him that sound, that East Coast sound. So it's very, very important that you find a producer and y'all click. So I know I'm getting off subject. Let me get back on it. Drake is very strategic. So Find Your Love is coming out. More hits are coming out. Lil Wayne's kind of bubbling at this time. Nicki's bubbling at this time. And I do think that they all played off each other. Okay? So around 2014, Nicki's still bubbling. Lil Wayne's kind of going through his little legal stuff. So Drake's still persevering. You know what I mean? So I would say Drake kind of was on his own right around 2014, 2015. So, Lil Wayne really wasn't putting out no music like that. And Nicki kind of wasn't putting out no music like that. Only on like features and everything. So Drake was kind of on his own around 2014. So I would say that from 2014 till now, Drake's just like pioneered, like he just surpassed like Nicki and Lil Wayne. That's because Drake is very strategic. Okay, he understands the importance of good music. Guys, you will never escape this. You might get your tour money right now. You might get about a bunch of shows. Your merch might be selling real good. But yo, if you don't have good music, this is why a lot of artists are getting frustrated with these labels. You start seeing these younger artists get on Twitter saying, yo, my label ain't this and that. My label is playing games. Because see, record labels, although they are banks, they're very smart. Like, record labels understand without a real product, the artist doesn't have value. The artist's value at the end of the day is his music, not how much he stays in blogs, not how much stories he's in every other month. It's all about the music. If you don't have good music that's gonna last long, the label looks at as an L, a loss. I don't think labels care too much about how much and well you tour, right? They care about it, but they know at the end of the day, if you don't really got great music that's gonna last for past 5 years, they know they're not gonna make a lot of money off you touring. They might get a good 2-3 years off you, but after that, they're gonna already be looking for another artist, because labels know that good music is gonna last, and they're gonna invest in artists that are giving you good music. You can't escape this, guys. You need good music. And Drake really understands that. Drake understands that, yo, I make good music. Now, it was a period where I'm thinking, are these numbers like fake? Are these stream numbers fake? And then it hit me. They're not fake. Every time I go on a female live, she's listening to Drake. Different age groups, they're listening to Drake. Every time I see a twerk video, they're listening to Drake. Even I'm listening to Drake's old stuff from 2012 and Drake's stuff from his older stuff I put on repeat. I mean, if I'm putting it on repeat, the harsh critic that I am, I know Drake's numbers are real. And his numbers are real because he comes from an honest place. He's an honest artist. And I think that's why he's survived so long in the game, because he makes great music. Now, there was a period where the Meek Mill incident happened and the reference tracks came out. Now, the reason why people dismiss the reference tracks and all that, because people that were really blowing it up were like the 40 and 50-year-olds. Those are the people like that really come from an era where you had to be original and authentic. But I don't understand. They really got Drake. Drake never proclaimed to be some big hip hop artist. Drake just claimed to be an artist that stayed on charts, an artist that stayed consistently selling records. Drake's just always proclaimed that. He never claimed to be the best R&B cat. He never claimed to be the best hip hop track. But he did give you the notation like, yo, I'm the biggest artist on these charts. And that's kind of what he's proclaimed. So if you got some reference tracks put out, it's not going to do anything if the artist really ain't repping that claim to be the best, hip hop or rap artist out there. You know what I'm saying? So the reference tracks claim went to bed. Also, people understand that Drake's talented. You could just see the honesty in it even when he performs his music. Like, this is really who Drake is, and women understand that. Women can tell because they're good at picking up vibes, so you can look at Drake and see that he really does write. I think he wrote the Alicia Keys record. Like, that was a great record for Alicia Keys throughout the last end of her career. I think that was her last biggest record, was Unbreakable. I think that's the name of it. But when you write a record for Alicia Keys and it's a success, hands down, you're good. All right, so some reference tracks come out because some dude wrote you a couple club records. That don't count. You know what I'm saying? I would pay somebody to write me some club records. Club records are easy. You know, it's not a whole lot of thought that you can really put into a club record. It's just a vibe. It's simple. You throw it out, boom, voila, it's a smash. So that's why a lot of people dismiss those reference tracks claims, because Drake is an honest artist. He really makes good music and he cares about his craft. And when somebody is passionate about their craft and what they put out, people don't care about all the gossip and all that other bull crap that comes out after. So let's proceed on. So reference tracks drop, people just bypass it. Drake still proceeds. He gives you some of biggest records from 2018, and he just proceeds and just progress. And then fast forward to now, it brings us to the Flognog Festival. I think this was Drake's wake-up call. Now, Drake is very strategic, and in my opinion, I think Drake predicted this would happen. He did say that he would get booed prior to coming out, but I think Drake knew he was gonna get booed on his way to the festival. Listen, guys, Drake is very strategic. When somebody moves strategically for the last 10 years, getting $2 million a show, the first question I'm thinking is, why would he come to an event? And I don't know if he really got paid for it. I don't even think he really got paid for it. I think he did it as a favor because he was cool with Tyler, the Creator. But you gotta think, why would Drake do that? Like, why would Drake he's never done that before. Why would he just pop up and perform so long? You know what I'm saying? Like, but he is the biggest artist in the world. But I think it was very strategic. I think Drake knew that he would get booed. And what's interesting is this happens on your 10th year, around the end of your decade run. And now remember, Drake doesn't really do interviews. Drake's more through the music, which is like the old-fashioned true way to be successful as an artist. You want to leave a mystery, and you want to put your answers in your music so people can buy the music to find out about you. Unfortunately, we live in a real social media up and close in your face connection with the artist. Now, I do believe the newer, younger artists are a little too much engaged with the consumer, but you do have to kind of leave a little mystiqueness, but you do have to connect with the consumer. You do have to connect with your audience on a continuous basis. A good person that does this the right way is Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj knows how to engage with her listeners and people who are supporting her team, and Beyonce knows how to do this as well. Like Beyonce and Nicki Minaj, they're really good at engaging with their followers and always being in tune with their followers, but at the same time leaving a mystique airness about yourself, so that every time you do connect with your audience and your fans, it's still that star quality about you. So it's definitely a balance you have to have. You do have to engage with your fans. These are people that are constantly getting introduced to new artists almost every weekly now. Every week there's like a new artist that's not even having a deal that might have 3 million views on YouTube, and these younger guys are just floating through different artists. You have to stay in your audience's face. Now, too much of this isn't good, so I would advise Drake to watch Nicki Minaj and watch Beyonce on how they engage with their fans, but still maintain a star quality about just themselves, and that keeps the consumer interested in you. As long as you keep looking like a star or have that star presence about yourself, it keeps the audience on their toes. You know, I'm not saying you gotta go out and cop big chains or anything like that. I'm just saying always kind of maintain that star quality about yourself. Like with Drake, I would say whatever he's doing everything right as we speak. He's never made mistakes, but I think he's like backed away from really connecting and giving you a little bit more of what Drake is about, and he only kind of does that through the music. And I think that's kind of where he might have went wrong. This is why you got an interview out of nowhere, and then you got a new record. I think it's a Drake record that he just dropped on the 24th of this month, December. So let's get back to the Flog Knock incident. This Flog Knock incident, if you notice when it happened, there wasn't hardly any videos giving Drake, like, there wasn't videos talking bad about the Boo incident. In fact, they were defending Drake. I mean, he's the biggest artist in the world as far as numbers. I think he just is the biggest artist, because numbers don't lie, people. They really don't. Especially the numbers that he's putting out. Like, these are numbers when an artist really is a great artist. They really put out good music. So when an incident like this happens, people go in alarm because they're not scared for Drake's career. They scared for artists that ain't Drake. Because if you ain't Drake, you might get booed as well. So when the biggest artist in the world gets booed, your tail might get booed if you are an artist. If anytime the biggest artist can get booed in the world. So in the interview, he did acknowledge, he was like, no, they booed me. But what a lot of people don't know, if you really look at Drake, you can tell that Drake predicted this. And I really believe that when Drake said, yeah, I'll do the festival, Tyler, I think it was a way for him to see where he was at in his career. It was very strategic. It happened in December. It happened like the final month of your 10-year decade. I told you, Drake is very strategic. He doesn't just do things out of thin air. All right. So what best way to know where you are with your audience, or where your music is at with real people, than to just pop up and perform randomly in front of a crowd you don't even know what age demographic the crowd is? That's a perfect playground for you to see how good your music is, and a great opportunity to see what you need to do different for your next album. And it was perfect. Although it was a little humility in it, it was a big tool for Drake, because Drake is strategic, and he needed to hear that before his next album that he's going to put out. So a lot of people dismiss that. Even, yeah, you got booed, but Drake's still the biggest artist. I'm still listening to females listen to Drake of all different age demographics. Drake's still number one. All right. So now fast forward. One thing I will say is that Drake is gonna be great. It's gonna be good because Drake is a writer. Drake writes music. Drake writes R&B songs. Like, Drake is a writer. He really writes music. So when you're a writer, you'll always have music. You'll always have a hit. So this is why these writers like The Dream, Neo, the list goes on and on. They're writers. They're always gonna have a hit. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I really believe that even what's his name, Youngbird, he's coming out of nowhere with all these hits. So I think even he writes for people for the last couple years before his big presence with the Hitmakers thing. So when you're a writer, you will never go away. You'll always be on top. And Drake's really a writer. Okay, so I think it was a great interview. All in all, I think that he acknowledged in the interview, hey, look, I'm in my 30s. I really can't do too much of the young stuff because that's not really me. I'm 30. I got a kid. Even before I got a kid, I'm still 30. I'm not really wild and crazy like that, like a 20-year-old kid is. So he really put emphasis on the fact that he's in a different age bracket than these younger cats. So, he really he can't really compete like that because it's two different age groups already at default. So I'm glad he pointed that out in the interview. I'm glad he did talk about the Kanye West thing. I don't think Drake hates Kanye West. I think he admires Kanye, and they're two of the same. Drake is Kanye, Kanye is Drake. They're both the same artist. Little different tweaks here and there, but they're both the same artist. Drake writes, Kanye produces. So they're both going to have longevity in music, period. Alright? So I would like them to do a record together. I would like them to really squash whatever there is. I think Drake really admires Kanye, and I think that he doesn't really know, why maybe Kanye lashes out or whatever at him or whatever. But I think they genuinely admire each other, because Kanye West kind of is competitive. You can kind of tell he does still have a competitive nature. Even with the last project he just put out, it was very strategic. It was done really great, and it was really done strategically. So when you have an artist that both competitive nature and still strategic and talented, you're always going to have love for each other. Even if you really kind of might lash out, the lashing out is because deep down inside, I think Kanye has a lot of respect for Drake, because I think Kanye could see Drake and Kanye. If you really look at it, Drake's kind of like Kanye when Kanye first started coming out. So they're two of the same. So I'm glad Drake kind of touched on that. I won't get into the Pusha thing. That's nothing serious. That's nothing to really talk about. It was just friendly competition to me. They both took jabs at each other. Hey, it was a good rap battle. So all in all, it was a great interview done by pioneers of hip hop. Elliot Wilson, I think he was with Double XL. So Elliot Wilson's been out in the game for like 30 years, the hip hop game. So he really knows music industry ins and outs. So great person to interview Drake. I don't know the other guy, but I'm pretty sure Elliot knows him well. So that was my take on the interview. Great interview. I do predict Drake to have a more successful runs in his music career, and if he continues to do things strategic like he's been doing for the past 10 years, he will not have any issues or problems, and I think he's going to keep winning. So that's my take. This is just my response on the other young brother that had the video with the problem with Drake, and this is just my response. He has some good points, and I just wanted to put my opinion out there. So shout out to everybody that's, shout out to my music critic brothers out there, sisters out there, and everybody's just giving good opinion and good feedback so the artist can stay important, so the artist can stay giving us great content. One thing I did want to point out is Drake is the last of the last. Drake is the last of the real authenticity artists, are like the Drakes, the Big Sean, the Kendricks, the Kanye's. They're like the last of the breed of authenticity. They're the last of the dinosaur era of record labels and promoting somebody to be a big star. So Drake is the last of that era. So that's why he makes point to mention Cole and Kendrick and Big Sean. They are like the last of the era of just giving you great content, great lyrics, and great messages in the music. Like, the new era isn't doing that anymore. So Drake wants to stay true to that, because those people that he named, or other MCs that he named, he has a lot of love for. So he knows that if he kind of falls, they kind of can fall too. So they have to stick together. And the Meeks out there too. The Meek Millies and all that. So yeah, Drake is the last of that breed of real authentic music and really good, feel good, goosebump music. So I think he made a good point to point that out. Like, I think he was saying, I don't want to lose the authenticity, but I still need to be on number one of these charts. And that's Drake's balance. That's how hard he has to balance that for the next couple years of what he's done for the past 10 years. So I think if he continues to strategically do that, he should be fine. But that's my take on the response. Follow me, hit my Cash App up, so we can keep giving you good content. I got another podcast, a playlist podcast I do on another page, on another site. If you go to my IG, you'll see the link to my other playlist. It's like a little podcast playlist. I don't do too much talking. It's just basically a quick playlist show I do. Just basically giving you a peek into what my playlist sounds like from a music critic. So, yeah, man, hit me up, the Cash App support, so you can support what I'm trying to do. And hit my IG up. If y'all need some beats or whatever, hit me up, man. So yeah, that's my take. Shout out to everybody out there that listen, and I'm out.